I knew Mark was with me only because he'd made a bet that on the day I got dumped, I'd completely lose control over how much I cared for him. I willingly stepped into that bet, diving headfirst into it to fulfill my 3-year secret crush. Then, on the day Mark was supposed to win his bet, I made the first move. I broke up with him, leaving decisively, without a moment's hesitation. I heard that day, a madman charged into airport security, trying to stop an international flight. 6 years later, when we met again, I discovered that madman was him. The arrogant, proud man I once knew had desperately searched for me for 6 years. The rain poured in the dense forest, the gray sky covered in thick fog, making everything hazy and strange. I leaned against a large rock to rest, gently rubbing my twisted ankle. I'd joined a survey team heading into the mountains, but I'd gotten separated from the group and lost my way in the complex terrain. It felt like the opening scene of a horror movie, where the protagonist gets into trouble. Although I felt stressed and uneasy, I wasn't desperate or scared. Knowing how to save myself and find my way in a deep forest was one of the most important lessons we had to learn before entering the mountains. I'd observed the trees here. The south side received more sunlight, so the foliage was denser. Heading south was where the main camp was located. The only difficulty was my twisted ankle. Getting out would definitely take a while. Suddenly, a voice from above called my name, Olivia. I froze for a moment, not for any other reason than that the voice sounded so much like Mark, who should have been thousands of miles away. But I didn't have time to think. I quickly pulled a powerful flashlight from my backpack. I'm here, Mark. Olivia. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Under the flashlight's beam, the person above quickly located me and moved closer. At the same time, I confirmed it. It really was Mark. A rush of emotion and joy choked my voice, especially as I saw Mark slide down the muddy slope, disregard the danger, his clothes smeared with dirt. I clutched him tighter. Be careful, Mark. Mark knelt before me, his eyes filled with concern as he saw my swollen ankle. Seeing my tear-filled face, he gently wiped away my tears. Don't be afraid. I'm here. I greedily nestled into his warm palm, not daring to tell him that I wasn't scared, but moved. Why are you here? Didn't you say you were on a business trip in New York? I lied. I just wanted to surprise you. I never expected to hear you might be stuck in the mountains, so I immediately came looking for you. The weather in the forest changed unpredictably. Just moments ago, it was pouring rain, and now the sky had cleared. Mark carried me on his back, and with my guidance, we finally returned to base camp. When the other members of the survey team saw me, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Their voices were filled with admiration mixed with a bit of regret. Olivia, your boyfriend is so incredibly concerned about you. We said to wait a bit longer before going to find you, but he wouldn't listen. He just plunged straight into the mountains, and we couldn't stop him. I awkwardly shook my head, leaning against Mark's back, reaching up to gently pinch his cheek. You're so stubborn. That was really dangerous. In reality, the survey team were all professionals. Even in bad weather, they knew how to handle it. Furthermore, while the terrain in today's survey area was complex, there were no life-threatening creatures or dangerous cliffs. It could still be considered safe. If everyone had rushed in to search for me, they might not have found me and might have ended up with more injured people. Mark turned his head, gently rubbing his nose against mine. I just couldn't bear the thought of you alone in the forest, with no one to help you. You want me to sit still and do nothing? I can't do that. The team leader, Sarah, holding a documentation camera, shivered. Enough. You're making me feel cold, both outside and inside, even out here in the woods. I blushed, raising my hand to cover the lens. Sarah, please don't film anymore. In the camp, the local guide was cooking a large pot of mushroom soup. After changing my clothes, I stepped out, but couldn't find Mark. Sarah, have you seen my boyfriend? Oh, I think he got a call and went over there. Following the direction she pointed, I thanked her and walked towards the bamboo grove. Mark was standing with his back to the camp. I intended to call him, but the words caught in my throat as if someone had punched me in the chest, making it impossible to breathe. You should have seen her face. She was so touched she probably wanted to give herself to him right then and there. Not that much. Wait until the breakup, the falling off a cliff kind of drama. I guarantee she'll completely break down. I can't bear it. No, if we just played along for a month, it wouldn't have that effect. If we're going to play, let's go all the way. What's the difference between 1 month and 3 months? The mountain. Air after the rain was still humid, but my entire body felt icy cold, as if someone had poured a bucket of ice water over my head. I had deceived myself for so long that I almost believed it was true. Right. I knew from the beginning that it was all just a game. Yet, I actually thought I could turn make-believe into reality. I met Mark during an interdepartmental collaboration. He studied architecture. I studied landscape design. I liked him the moment I saw him. I wasn't good at socializing and was used to being quiet and reserved. My roommates even teased me, calling me cold and aloof. The rare moments my face flushed were probably only when I was around Mark. My secret crush on him was almost an open secret, known to everyone except him. Or perhaps he knew, but pretended not to because he wasn't interested in me. So I never thought about confessing my feelings, just quietly liked him for 3 years. 3 months ago, the interdepartmental project was completed, and both our graduations were celebrated together. I stood on the second-floor balcony, enjoying the breeze, unconsciously searching for Mark. I found him sitting with his friends in a lounge area downstairs. If I leaned just a little, I could see him lazily leaning back in his chair, scrolling through his phone with a bored expression. Just then, I heard my name from Ben, Mark's friend. Mark, have you heard? That jerk from last time, the one who lost the bet to you and smashed his helmet? He went and confessed to the landscape design girl Olivia. She shot him down flat. Say what you will, that girl is cold to the bone, but around you, she's as gentle as an early morning orchid. Chris scoffed. Everyone can see she likes you. Are you really not interested? Mark grunted, not even looking up. Dull and boring. But I'm really curious. Will someone like her ever lose control? It'd be interesting if a goddess turned into a crazy woman. If that jerk knew his goddess was being toyed with in your palm, he might actually smash his car. Mark kicked Ben. Get out of here. Is there something wrong with your head? Seriously though, why don't you try dating her for a month, then break up with her and see her reaction? Dull and boring, right? Just then, a slender girl approached. It was Chloe, Mark's childhood friend. The two of them were often seen together, and everyone thought they were a couple until Chloe started having new boyfriends frequently, while her relationship with Mark remained strictly platonic. People gradually discarded that misconception. What's going on? Ben repeated his idea. This time, Mark's scrolling stopped, and his eyes left his phone for the first time, seemingly waiting for Chloe's opinion. She shrugged, smiling softly. Try it. Who knows, it might work out. Mark, you should really start dating. Another person egged him on. Ben became even more excited. You've always wanted my limited edition Kawasaki, right? If you agree, I'll sell it to you for the price you offered last time. What's wrong? Scared of losing to a girl? I'll even throw in a collector's edition helmet signed by Warren. What do you say? Mark stood up, facing Chloe. Okay, deal. In just 5 minutes, I had heard the entire process of myself becoming a bet. And then, Mark appeared right behind me, confessing his feelings. I should have refused, but I couldn't bring myself to. I considered it turning my 3-year dream into a reality. Or perhaps I held on to the hope that my sincerity could move him. I also wanted to bet on myself, so I agreed. For that month, we were like any other couple. We walked, ate, and watched movies together. But we weren't entirely alike because the phrase willingly, courageously, and humbly described my actions. The rare times we held hands or hugged, I was the one who initiated it. The first time we kissed, he turned his head, letting the kiss land on the corner of my mouth. A month passed, neither short nor long. I was prepared to be mocked, but I never heard Mark break up with me. Gradually, he started taking my hand when we crossed the street. When we took pictures, I noticed the corners of his lips curve into a smile. At appropriate times, he would lift my face and kiss me. He rode his most treasured motorcycle, taking me for rides on the track, and when he saw I was scared, he slowed down so much that other racers left us behind, just so I wouldn't panic. A month, then 2 months, then 3 months. I thought it was proof that he had fallen for me. I thought that sincerity would be met with sincerity. I thought I had won the bet. Olivia, aren't you going to call your boyfriend for dinner? Where is he? I bowed my head, not daring to let Sarah see the tears in my eyes. He's on the phone, probably work. Olivia, aren't you going to call your boyfriend for dinner? Where is he? I bowed my head, not daring to let Sarah see the tears in my eyes. He's on the phone, probably work. Your boyfriend is really great. Even with how busy he is, he makes time to see you. Not like my husband and I, one goes to the mountains, the other goes to the sea. We barely see each other all year. Suddenly remembering something, she lowered her voice and asked me, the Herb Art Institute in Italy, are you still going? The company only has one nomination. If you accept it, it'll be hard to see each other for at least 3 to 5 years. If it weren't for my family, I'd want to apply too. You said you were still thinking about it because of your boyfriend, right? The Herb Art Institute is a famous garden art museum in Italy, covering over 100,000 square meters with over 300 gardens showcasing the work of outstanding landscape artists worldwide. I received the invitation on my birthday. On that same day, Mark gave me a small star named after me. He said, no matter where you are, as long as you look up at the sky, I can see you. Mark's straightforward way of expressing his love softened my heart. So even though I had once dreamed of working at HB, I started to hesitate. I felt guilty leaving him alone in the country. But pitying a man is the beginning of tragedy, and expecting too much is an incomplete ending. I looked up at the night sky, where the stars twinkled like scattered diamonds, but in the end, those stars were dimmed by self-mockery, and bitterness enveloped me. After returning to the hotel, I emailed the company, agreeing to join HB. Mark brought a cup of ginger tea. You've been out in the rain all day. Drink some ginger tea to warm up. Don't catch a cold. He placed the cup beside me, then pressed his face into the hollow of my neck, rubbing gently. He accidentally saw the email sent confirmation on my screen. I felt a pang of guilt and quickly closed the webpage. Luckily, he didn't pay much attention. The opening ceremony for a project is in 2 days. Will you come? This is a project I've poured my heart into since I started working. I want you by my side during this important moment. A thread in my mind suddenly tightened. Ben and Chloe were both on Mark's team. Could this be the moment he fulfilled his bet? I turned to look at him, seeing a flicker of awkwardness in his eyes when he met mine. It was then I realized I couldn't hide the coldness in my gaze. Olivia, what's wrong? I shook my head, leaning into his chest. Nothing, just a little tired. Mark glanced at the bed beside us, and his ears suddenly reddened. Then get some rest. I'll head back. Call me if you need anything. I nodded obediently, but before he walked out the door, I called him back. I'll go to the opening ceremony. Of course, I have to be there for such an important moment. On the opening day, Mark specifically came to pick me up. As the lead architect of the project, he immediately drew everyone's attention upon entering. The hall was divided into 2 areas. The outer area was for networking with industry partners, filled with commercial well-wishes and flattery. The inner area was reserved for Mark's team, mostly people who had attended college with him, the same faces I'd become familiar with during our previous interdepartmental project. Many people had witnessed Ben and Mark make their bet, so when Mark held my hand and walked in, the atmosphere in the room instantly quieted for a moment, then quickly returned to its usual lively chatter. Ben saw Mark holding my hand and immediately teased, "No wonder you weren't seen at the groundbreaking ceremony. You were picking up your sister-in-law." Everyone laughed, but hidden within their amusement were subtle taunts that outsiders would miss. Among those meaningful glances, one person showed the clearest hostility. Chloe. After being with Mark, I realized that Chloe's feelings for him weren't just friendship. For example, whenever I had a date with Mark, she would always find excuses to call him back to the office for a meeting, or claim a traffic accident, or say a stranger was ringing her doorbell late at night, asking him to come help. At first, Mark would always immediately leave me to rush to Chloe's side, until one time, she used another excuse that caused Mark to abandon me midway, making me take a taxi home alone. That night, I accidentally encountered 2 drunk men harassing me. In my panic, I fell. Luckily, a police patrol car was nearby. Otherwise, I would have been dragged into the dark alley behind us. When we arrived at the police station, Mark's face was pale. Seeing the cuts and gravel on my knees, he grew even more regretful and scared. Chloe stood right behind him, looking at me with a mocking gaze. When Mark wasn't looking, she quietly whispered, "You're pretty bold, aren't you?" Seeing her immediately change her expression to feign concern for me, I almost thought I'd misheard her. After that incident, no matter what excuse Chloe used to call Mark away, he no longer left me stranded. But I also knew that after he dropped me off at home, he would immediately leave in the direction of Chloe's house. I tried to keep him once, but I could never expose his excuses. Chloe's expression shifted as she smiled, gently taking my hand and skillfully stepping between Mark and me. Mark, the boss is looking for you. Go check it out quickly. Mark squeezed my hand slightly. He probably wants me to greet someone. I'll be back in a moment. All right, we're not going to eat you. Chloe laughed, pushing him out of the room. After Mark left, she pulled me to sit in the middle of the room, introducing me to a few people who didn't know me. This is Mark's girlfriend, the cold beauty from the landscape design department back in college. I heard she never looked at anyone else back then, only Mark. I smiled, looking at Chloe, and in her eyes, a complex emotion flickered, like envy mixed with sarcasm. No wonder she's the department's beauty. No wonder Mark is so captivated. Ben chuckled, emphasizing the words so captivated with a deep, meaningful tone. He glanced at Chloe, and they exchanged knowing looks without needing to say a word. From the moment I walked in until I sat down, I had somewhat grasped the situation. Mark probably wouldn't break up with me right now. Bringing me here might be to make me delude myself into thinking I truly held a special place in his heart, only to make my eventual fall more painful. Or perhaps it was simply to make me a laughingstock. In front of his friends, Chloe continued to elevate me, constantly talking about how special I was in Mark's eyes. The more they saw me believe, the deeper the smiles in their eyes became. So I played along with her words. The most touching moment for me was still when he risked danger to rush into Mount Vernon to find me. He even said he couldn't imagine me alone and isolated in the forest, and that he couldn't sit still and do nothing. The atmosphere in the room immediately became awkward because everyone knew these words completely contradicted Mark's usual personality and image. Chloe's smile also stiffened. She almost certainly said, "Haha, Mark is too shy to even say happy birthday because he thinks it's cheesy. How could he say things like that?" Everyone was half believing, half doubting. Exactly. If Mark's mouth uttered those words, it would be like the sun rising in the west. Chloe slowly regained her confidence, continuing smugly, "It's not that. I don't believe you. It's just that Mark and I grew up together. I know his personality better than anyone." I continued to smile, slowly playing the video that Sarah had coincidentally recorded earlier. Really? Sarah accidentally recorded this? Chloe took my phone, half believing, half doubting, and the room immediately fell silent. Mark's deep, warm voice echoed clearly from the video. In the video, he was covered in mud, yet he carefully carried me on his back, his eyes full of tenderness. "I just couldn't bear the thought of you alone in the forest, with no one to help. You want me to sit still and do nothing? I can't do that." Ben shivered. Chloe clutched the phone so tightly her fingertips turned white. The smile on her face finally vanished. Some people started whispering, and others were surprised to see a different side of Mark for the first time. "I can't believe it. Mark's icy cold mouth could say something like that. It's truly different." With a new sister-in-law, Chloe threw the phone back at me, glaring at the person who had spoken. "What do you know? You don't know anything. Mark is just—" I tilted my head, feigning curiosity. "Just what?" Chloe's expression immediately became more arrogant. She scoffed. "Do you really think you're that important to Mark?" I looked directly at her. "What do you mean?" "What I mean is, actually." The door to the room suddenly burst open, cutting off Chloe. Mark stood in the doorway, his eyes fixed on her warningly. He walked over, standing in front of me. "Chloe, what nonsense are you going to say?" Seeing Mark's warning gaze, Chloe had to swallow her words. Ben quickly broke the tense atmosphere. "Chloe just got dumped, and you two are showing affection in front of her. It's like twisting a knife in her heart, right, Chloe?" Chloe reluctantly nodded. I noticed Mark subtly sigh with relief. I chuckled softly. "I thought she was going to say I wasn't important to you." Mark subtly avoided my gaze. "Of course not." Compared to my question, the sudden coldness in my tone seemed to confuse Mark even more. Ben quickly spoke up for him. "Of course he cares about you. He didn't even tell you he was hurt. I saw him limping this morning and only then found out." He turned to Mark. "Hey, have you put medicine on it yet?" "The injury?" "Injury?" I was stunned. "When?" "It was when he went into Mount Vernon to find you. Don't know if it was scratched by a plant or bitten by an insect. A whole patch of his leg is bruised, raw, and festering." As Ben spoke, he pulled up Mark's pant leg. Although Mark quickly pulled it back down, I still managed to see the wound. Mount Vernon has many rare plants. Some have secretions that cause burning and itching. At first, it's just redness and mild itching, but if scratched hard, the wound will fester and spread. I frowned. Why didn't you put medicine on it? Mark gently pushed Ben away, scolding him. Don't overreact. It's nothing serious. I was too busy and forgot. The doctor at the hospital also said it's fine. I pursed my lips, feeling a little uneasy. Inside, my senior also got scratched by this type of plant before. If the wound isn't treated, it'll spread. I see a pharmacy ahead. Wait for me here. Don't wander around, to avoid making the wound worse. Seeing the raw, lacerated wound on his leg, all my suspicions, deceit, and bets vanished from my mind in that moment. Whether I wanted to or not, I softened. On the way back to the hall from the pharmacy, I quietly re-examined everyone's expressions from earlier. Ben tried to hide his discomfort, Chloe was flustered, and Mark kept dodging my gaze. A naive thought suddenly occurred to me. Undeniable, my relationship with Mark began with deceit. But what if, as I had once deluded myself, Mark wasn't entirely deceiving me, but had actually developed feelings for me? What if what he had said to Ben before was just out of pride among his friends, so he acted tough? If I gave him a chance to be honest, would he lost in thought? I almost ran a red light. Just as I decided to talk openly with Mark, I saw him, Ben, and Chloe walking out of a private room. My instincts told me to avoid them, so I took a step back and pressed myself against the wall in the corner of the hallway. Why did you tell her about your injury? Are you really afraid she'll be upset? You needed to bandage the wound anyway, Mark. You're a big shot architect. Is it really that embarrassing to have your girlfriend run and get medicine for you? Seriously, you're not actually falling for her, are you? You like this cold flower now? It seems my garage is about to get another Kawasaki. Don't even dream about it. I just find it despicable to exploit this injury to gain sympathy. Chloe's voice was muffled, as if she was suffering a great injustice. And what about today? You made me lose face in front of everyone because of her? When are you going to break up with her? It's not time yet. I think you're just reluctant. Chloe paused, then continued. The end of this month is my birthday. Break up with her on that day. Consider it a gift to me, okay? Mark remained silent. Through his reflection in the glass panel opposite, I saw Chloe step forward and subtly tug at the corner of his shirt. By then, I'll also have a gift I want to give you. It's something I've been wrong about for so many years, and I've only just realized it now. Ben lazily leaned against the wall, chuckling. You've played enough, Mark. If you really don't like her, you should tell her soon so she has time to heal. After all, I think she's genuinely into you. The moment she heard you were hurt, she got all flustered. Of course, if you really like her, consider that Kawasaki my finder's fee, okay? You wouldn't lose anything. A group of people just passed by in the hallway. I stepped back slightly to avoid them, only catching a glimpse of Mark's lips moving, but I couldn't hear what he said. When I looked up again, they had already returned to the private room. I stood still in the hallway for another minute, trying to overcome the suffocating feeling, as if my throat was being squeezed. When I returned to the private room, Chloe immediately sat down happily beside me. Olivia, my birthday is next week. Will you come to my birthday party? I looked at Mark. Can I go? He nodded. Of course. Hearing this, Chloe smiled even brighter. I heard Mark has prepared a birthday gift for me too. Can you give me a hint? I'm really curious. I turned back to Mark asking, is that so? I didn't know either. What is it? Mark's eyes deepened, glancing at Chloe. His voice was calm but held something unreadable. You'll know then. Don't worry. You'll definitely be satisfied. Finally, Chloe's smile blossomed, but the light in my eyes had completely dimmed. It turned out that when a person had completely grown cold, even disappointment was not worth mentioning. My visa was approved faster than expected, and the company quickly arranged my flight ticket, coincidentally on Chloe's birthday. Mark, due to a new project, had to go on a business trip far away, and would also return to the country on Chloe's birthday. Everything cleverly aligned on the same day. After landing, Mark messaged me to let me know he was safe. Just landed on time. I'll pick you up after work later. I have something to tell you. Tonight at the birthday party. When I received the message, I had just entered the boarding lounge. Okay? I have something to tell you too. Mark, let's break up. During Mark's business trip, we had still messaged and called each other as usual. There were no unusual signs. It was precisely because it was too normal that as soon as the breakup message was sent, my phone immediately vibrated. Mark called continuously, and messages quickly flooded my screen. A falling off a cliff kind of breakup? Anyone can do that. I blocked and deleted Mark from my contacts and got a new SIM card. The world became much quieter. A moment later, the flight attendant announced boarding. As I walked to the boarding gate, in the security check area far away, a commotion suddenly erupted, attracting many onlookers. I paid no attention, just quietly boarded the flight to Italy. The plane was delayed for a long time. Passengers who boarded later discussed how a madman had rushed into the security checkpoint, causing trouble, and was finally escorted away by the police. The incident was quickly forgotten, and the flight took off smoothly. When I arrived in Germany and turned on my phone, I immediately received a message from Sarah. "Olivia, it seems Mark called the front desk asking about you. The new staff member wasn't well trained and blurted out, she went abroad today. Did you board your flight safely?" I fabricated a reason, saying Mark had cheated and even wanted me to accept a polyamorous relationship, asking Sarah to help me keep my whereabouts secret. She was furious and immediately agreed to block all information. She just didn't expect the oversight to come from the new front desk employee. Luckily, she happened to walk by and heard Mark asking about me, so she managed to hang up in time. After messaging Sarah to let her know I was safe, I suddenly remembered the madman who had rushed into airport security earlier. A thought flashed through my mind. Could that person have been Mark? But I quickly dismissed the idea. Someone like Mark, always so proud and arrogant, how could he do something like that? Especially for me. Clouds drifted lazily, the sunset faded, and stars began to dot the night sky. Italy is a land of passion and romance, where people especially cherish every moment of love. The glowing red sunset spread across the garden, covering it with a warm light. Mia and Liam stood in two distant gardens but coincidentally met on the same path. They embraced each other tightly as if everything around them had melted away. Amelia watched the couple in the distance, her eyes filled with admiration. I picked up a small shovel, scooped up a handful of earth smelling of fresh grass, and chuckled teasingly. "This is even sweeter than the soil. Olivia, you're so annoying." Our laughter broke the romantic atmosphere around us. I chuckled apologetically, and Amelia reached out and wiped some wet dirt on my nose before she let it go. She looked at me seriously and asked, "Olivia, do you really have no desire for love? It's been 6 years, and so many people have pursued you, yet you've spoken more words to plants than to men." I shrugged, calmly replying, "That's right. I only care why my bird of paradise hasn't bloomed yet." Amelia rolled her eyes, looking as if she had lost all hope for me. Just then, Mr. Derry, the security guard, rushed over as if he had found a savior when he saw me. "Olivia, quick, come outside. There's a Chinese man here, and I can't communicate with him in English. Please help me tell him the museum is closed and to come back tomorrow." Derry was nearly 50 years old and only spoke Italian. I smiled. "Okay, no problem. I'll go talk to him." I dusted the dirt from my hands onto my apron and walked towards the museum gate. The corridor leading to the main gate was quite long. When I was halfway there, my steps gradually slowed. Looking at the silhouette outside, I suddenly found the scene strangely familiar. No matter how decisively I had left that year, there were still moments when emotions unexpectedly surged, reminding me of things I shouldn't remember. There was a time when I imagined he would suddenly appear at some point in my life, like now. The scene of Mark standing at the museum gate, I had thought of it before, but I never expected that even after 6 years, I could still recognize him just by his silhouette. Hearing footsteps, Mark turned around, almost at the same time I spun to run. "Olivia." The footsteps behind me grew closer and closer. My wrist was seized, pulling my entire body into his arms. I clutched the mask strap, deliberately using fluent Italian to disguise my voice. "Sir, please release me." Mark didn't bother to pay attention, directly pulling my mask down. "Stop pretending, Olivia." I struggled, but the difference in strength was too great. I couldn't break free. "Let go of me first." He tightened his grip a little more, then gradually loosened it, but still held my wrist tightly. "I didn't expect to meet you here, Olivia. Why did you suddenly leave that year?" Looking at his expression, as if I had abandoned him, I couldn't help but find it amusing. How ridiculous. The corridor suddenly echoed with a third set of footsteps. It was Mia, the operations manager of this garden. I seized the opportunity to twist my wrist, using all my strength to fiercely pinch the back of Mark's hand. Finally, I broke free. "You're Mr. Henderson, right?" Mark rubbed the pinch spot painfully, glanced at me with dissatisfaction, and replied, "Yes, that's me." Mia looked a little apologetic. "I'm sorry, I forgot to tell the security guard that your flight was delayed. It's okay." So he had an appointment with the museum director. This world is so vast. Why did we meet here? I glared at him, warning him not to cause trouble for me in front of my colleagues. I intended to quietly leave, but Mia called me back. I reluctantly stopped, maintaining a smile on my face, though everyone could see the forced nature of it. "I'm sorry, darling. I know this isn't your working hours, but Mr. Henderson has an appointment with the director. He's only in Italy for one night and wants to select some suitable gardens for reference. I hope you can stay and give him some more information." I forced a smile and replied, "Of course, it's my responsibility." Mark had taken on a villa project on a hillside. The client entrusted him with the landscape design as well. Besides the main residence and guest house, the remaining area for landscape was up to 50 acres. This was a large project, so the museum director specifically instructed me to seize this cooperation opportunity. During the tour, Mia did most of the explaining, and I simply followed, providing support when needed. It was already dark, and the lights were somewhat dim. As I walked across a paved path, I accidentally twisted my ankle. Mark, who was walking ahead, immediately turned back and caught me. Mia, a huge fan of Chinese martial arts films, immediately pushed up her glasses, her eyes gleaming. "Wow, did Mr. Henderson learn martial arts? He can hear in 6 directions and see in 8. Mark still held my arm, his eyes clearly showing concern, and his voice was a little tense. "Are you okay?" I tried to move my foot. It was just a slight twist, not too serious. I shook my head, intending to pull my hand away from his, but he didn't let go. "Are you sure you're okay?" Mia and her husband, who were avid fans of Korean dramas, immediately sensed the ambiguity, their eyes flickering between Mark and me with suspicion. I had to use a bit of force to pull my hand away from Mark, glaring at him. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I'm really fine." Mark understood my distance. His face looked a little lonely in the dim light. Then he deliberately slowed his pace, walking parallel to me. "I'll walk a little slower. You too, slow down." Finally, Mia turned around and realized we had fallen quite far behind. Suddenly, Mark stopped, his gaze fixed on a bed of bird of paradise flowers, also known as the crane flower. Mia, following his gaze, enthusiastically introduced, "This flower bed was designed by Olivia." "Olivia, can you tell us a bit about it?" I nodded, about to speak, but suddenly recalled a memory from 6 years ago. At that time, Mark and I had coincidentally discovered a cluster of blooming bird of paradise flowers on a hill. Bird of paradise is a tropical plant. In a temperate climate like our hometown of Springfield, even with careful cultivation, it's difficult for it to grow strongly, and even rarer for it to bloom. That day, I was incredibly surprised and dragged Mark to see the flowers. The bird of paradise was originally just a common, unnoticed species, but because its flower shape resembles a crane, it was named crane flower HWNLN crane. Gazing at orchid. People say that in ancient times, there was a couple who loved each other but were separated due to their differing social statuses. The girl was forced by her family to marry another man. On her wedding day, she escaped from the sedan chair but accidentally fell into a ravine. The young man found her body and ended his own life beside her. From then on, at the bottom of the ravine, where conditions were not favorable for plant growth, a forest of crane flowers grew. But when people discovered them, after only one night, the entire flower forest withered. Some say they were the reincarnation of the lovers who, not wanting to be disturbed by the mortal world, transformed into crane fairies and flew away together. Therefore, the crane flower symbolizes faithful love that never leaves, and is also a symbol of freedom, happiness, and joy. At that time, Mark held me gently and said, "Someday, we'll plant crane flowers in our home too. I'll design our house, and you'll design our garden, okay?" Perhaps it was from that moment that the bird of paradise, or crane flower, always had a place in my designs. Every time Mark saw it, he'd tease me, asking if I had started planning the design for our future garden. A voice calling my name pulled me back to reality. I regulated my breathing, gathered my thoughts, and continued my introduction. A moment later, Mark turned around, his voice hoarse and heavy. Olivia, do you know? For 6 years, I've searched every garden in the world that has bird of paradise flowers, hoping to find news of you. Since Mark had to leave Italy the next day, the collaboration agreement was finalized very quickly. But choosing the designs still took from PM until midnight. My presence wasn't needed for the contract signing. When Mia went to prepare the documents, Mark stopped me. Can you wait for me a little longer? It's late. Let me take you home. Afraid I would run away, he signed the contract very quickly. The moment I stepped into a taxi, Mark ran out of the museum. After all, he would be leaving tomorrow, and we had nothing left to say. Looking in the rearview mirror as his figure gradually disappeared, I remained silent. However, as soon as I got home, I received a call from the police station. When I arrived, Mark was sitting blankly on the bench, his hands empty. The police officer told me Mark had been robbed and that I was the only person he knew there, so they asked for my help. Leaving the police station, I looked at Mark skeptically. How did you get my number? It's in the contract. It was true that contracts would have the designer's contact information, but it was usually in an appendix, not very prominent. And with the number of orders Mark had today, there were at least 30 designers. If it were easy to see, he should have remembered Mia's number, not mine. Are you intentionally trying to get involved with me? Mark, exposed by me, showed no sign of guilt. Instead, a hint of stubbornness appeared in his eyes. Olivia, have you forgotten? We still have things we haven't clarified. This kind of setting someone up trick. I chuckled, my eyes full of mockery. What's wrong? Can't trick me. So you're angry? Mark froze for a long moment, his face gradually paling, his eyes filled with shock and panic. You knew since when? I looked directly into his eyes, speaking slowly. What if I told you I knew from the very beginning? Known since that graduation party. As the words left my lips, Mark's entire body stiffened, his lips trembling slightly. You wanted to see how much I'd lose control over you. Coincidentally, I also wanted to see how much you'd be played with. I shrugged, shaking my head, filled with disappointment. But it was really boring. Mark's breathing became heavier, but he still tried to remain calm. Do you mean you never loved me? No, that's not right. You loved me, right? Love and loved are only separated by one word, but they represent an entire past. Back then, it was just foolishness. But Mark, try asking yourself, do you deserve my love? In the 3 months we were together, every time you deliberately tried to move me, did you imagine how heartbroken I'd be when you dumped me? I pulled a few bills from my wallet, enough for him to take a taxi to the airport. Out of consideration for our past, I can't bear to see you wandering the streets, but I can only help this much. Don't contact me again from now on. Mark looked at the money in my hand but didn't take it. So, in the 3 months we were together, you just saw me as a game too? No matter how hard I tried to appear indifferent, when I thought back to the times I had genuinely given my love, I still felt my chest tighten. My emotions might have been just a joke in his eyes, but I knew I had exchanged them for all my sincerity. That's right. I stuffed the money into his jacket pocket, then waved for a taxi across the street. I'm going home. Mark stepped forward, blocking my path. I moved left. He leaned left. I moved right. He grabbed my wrist. I looked down at his hand, gripping me tightly with disgust, trying to break free. Let go. Don't force me to take you to the police station for harassment. His voice was hoarse and helpless. Olivia, I admit that at first, I made a bet with Ben, but after that, I really didn't care about the bet anymore. I had decided to tell Ben directly that I lost. I lost to you. The memory from 6 years ago suddenly became clear. I chuckled coldly. But you hesitated, didn't you? When you were debating whether to break up with me or confess the truth. When Chloe said, break up with her at her birthday party as entertainment, you hesitated. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the stinging sensation in my nose. I don't care about the bet anymore. I only care that if you truly loved me, you should have firmly chosen me. This time, next time, every time. Mark's voice choked. I hesitated because I was scared. Scared that if you knew the truth, I would lose you. But after that, I regretted it every day. I thought if I had been honest sooner, at least we wouldn't have ended up like this. I know you like the bird of paradise, so for the past 6 years, I've searched every garden with bird of paradise flowers, just hoping to hear news of you someday. Olivia, I was wrong that year. I'm sorry. Please, come back to me. I shook my head, smiling helplessly. But in this world, there's everything. Just no what ifs, Mark. What you can't accept isn't love. It's that you lost your own bet. My wrist was red from his tight grip. I frowned. You're hurting me. Mark quickly loosened his grip. I seized the opportunity to pull away and quickly got into the car. As soon as I was inside, I immediately locked the door, but Mark remained standing there, with no intention of chasing me. Suddenly, I felt like I had overreacted. As the car drove away from the neighborhood, the suppressed emotions suddenly burst forth, my cheeks cold with tears. It was only then that I realized I had never truly let go either. I thought that with Mark's pride after what I said that day, he would never appear in front of me again. But unexpectedly, Mia reported that Mark specifically requested all designers be present to ensure adherence to the original blueprint. So I was forced to return to the country to participate in Mark's project. On the way back, I also learned that Mark had opened his own design company. His team was still the same old partners from back then. Before construction began, I needed to discuss the design zoning with Mark, so I arranged a meeting with him. The company even prepared welcome decorations for our team. However, the moment I appeared, the bustling atmosphere immediately died down. In that moment, it was as if I had returned to 6 years ago. Familiar faces all showed obvious surprise, whispering and exchanging complex glances. Chloe, in particular, was visibly flustered, her expression changing rapidly. It seemed they had no idea that I was one of the landscape designers for this project. The wine glass in her hand trembled slightly, betraying her feigned calmness. Lily, when will Mr. Henderson arrive? The girl named Lily, who seemed to be Chloe's assistant, looked at her watch and replied, about 5 more minutes. I think. Hearing this, Chloe slammed the wine glass onto the table so hard that the stem broke, producing a shrill shattering sound. She pulled me into an indoor garden filled with many bird of paradise flowers. The temperature and humidity system here were well controlled, ideal for this plant to thrive. I twisted my wrist, easily slipping free from Chloe's hand. What do you want? Chloe's eyes flashed with hatred, but she seemed to be trying to control it, making her expression strangely distorted. I should be asking you. You left so decisively. Why are you back? I chuckled, my eyes full of sarcasm. What are you afraid of? Afraid Mark will see me again? Perhaps you don't know, we've already met in Italy. She froze, clearly unaware of this. For a fleeting moment, panic flashed in her eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. What do I have to be afraid of? For the past 6 years, I've been by Mark's side, while you're just a former flame in name only. Don't expect to use the white moonlight trick to get back with him. She curled her lips into a cold smile. Do you know, back then, Mark was only with you because of a bet with Ben, and also because he was angry with me. He never liked you. I calmly leaned against the railing, not reacting as she expected. She seemed a little disappointed. So what? I smiled faintly. I left 6 years ago. You've been with him for 6 years, yet now you're still insecure about my appearance? Don't you think you're even more pathetic than I was back then? Don't get so agitated. I cross my arms, my tone calm. I'm only back this time for work. I don't have time to play games of fighting over men with you. In my current life, Mark isn't even qualified to be a passerby. You don't need to see me as an enemy. You can belittle yourself however you want, but don't drag me down with you. Chloe's face hardened. She still refused to give up. If you truly no longer have feelings for Mark, then I hope you'll withdraw from this project. I can introduce you to another project, or if you have any conditions, just name them. I glanced at the gold business card in her hand, only then realizing that Mark's company logo was a bird of paradise flower. I smiled faintly. I'm not refusing for anyone's sake, but because I have a responsibility to my work, that's all. I truly have no intentions with Mark. I raised my hand. On my ring finger, a diamond sparkled under the light. And besides, I'm engaged. With that, I turned to leave. Unexpectedly, as soon as I turned, I saw Mark standing there, holding a beautifully wrapped bouquet of bird of paradise flowers. Amidst the vibrant colors of the flowers, his face was terrifyingly pale. In the end, that bouquet of bird of paradise flowers never reached my hands. When Mark offered it, I politely but distantly replied, "Thank you, but in my garden, the most abundant thing is bird of paradise." The fiancé was just a lie. I simply didn't want to get further entangled with Mark and Chloe, so I casually used the ring as an excuse. But I had underestimated Mark's limits. I never expected this action would provoke him even more. He took advantage of my unguarded moment, pulled me into a cramped utility room, and forced me to call my non-existent fiancé. "If you don't call, it means you're lying. You don't have a fiancé at all, do you?" Mark's breath was hot on my ear. The distance between us was so close I could hear every heartbeat. But even if I did, it wouldn't matter. "You might be someone who can't be open about things. Olivia, I can be." His arm tightened around my waist, his hot breath on my neck, his lips gently brushing against it. An alarm bell rang in my head. He was serious. I struggled, my voice trembling with fear. "Let go of me, Mark. Are you crazy?" "Yes, I'm crazy. 6 years ago, the day you left without a word, I stormed into airport security. I was considered a madman and arrested by the police. You were the one who drove me crazy. 6 years ago, I suddenly remembered the story of a madman storming airport security. It turned out that person was Mark. His kisses on my neck grew increasingly forceful. The cramped space gradually became suffocating. My strength was draining away. Frightened, a tear fell onto his shoulder, making his entire body tremble slightly. All his movements immediately stopped, leaving only the sound of our ragged breaths. "Let go of me." Finally, the arms around my waist loosened. The next second, I pushed him away and rushed out of the utility room. Chloe seemed to be looking for Mark. Seeing me run out of the small room, her eyes darkened, and then she turned to look inside, her gaze almost hateful. Autumn in Springfield is cool and pleasant, without the oppressive heat of summer or the biting cold of winter. It's very suitable for outdoor work. After the zoning was completed, each designer would lead their construction team to conduct measurements and clear the site. Although there was specialized machinery for clearing, I still preferred to do the work myself. Whether it was finding a rare seedling, discovering a medicinal plant, or simply smelling the earth's fragrance when digging, everything improved my mood. I held the blueprint, imagining the complete landscape in my mind. Suddenly, my ankle throbbed with pain. Immediately afterward, my entire lower leg began to go numb. The nearby grass rustled as if something had just slipped inside. A bad feeling welled up. I pulled up my pant leg. 2 small tooth marks appeared on my skin, and the area around them had already begun to bruise. A snake bite? In these geographical and environmental conditions, how could there be snakes? I immediately took off my hair tie and tightly tied it 3 centimeters above the wound to slow the spread of the venom. Ben, who was in charge of the construction team, immediately ran over when he heard me call. I quickly gave orders. "Listen carefully." Immediately announced to the team to be alert for snakes. Also, carry me to the car. I need to go to the hospital immediately. I've been bitten by a snake.